So apparently the Russian leadership approved the aggressive actions of the jets, damaged the U.S. drone, and it all was from the direct top, or at least that is what they are claiming. This basically event has now been put out, and the video is now out. We will show you that later, but it looked like it was an apparent purposeful action, and it was approved by the very top. I don't know why they are pushing us this way, maybe because this is to lead to, well, they did this, so now we need to get more involved. I don't know. But it said that 3 U.S. officials familiar with the intelligence said that the highest level of the Kremlin approved the aggressive actions of the Russian military fighter jets against a U.S. military drone over the Black Sea Tuesday. The Russian jets dropped jet fuel on the MQ-9 Reaper, an unprecedented action, and 2 of the officials said that the intelligence suggests that the intent seemed to be throw the drone off course or disable its surveillance capabilities. It was Russian leadership's intentions to be aggressive in the intercept. It said one official said that he had not gotten indications that the sign-off went all the way up to Putin. Other officials declined to provide specifics beyond highest levels. So they're kind of saying that Putin may have had a part in it, but kind of not. We'll talk about this and all of the other huge events going on. In fact, this is probably the smallest event of the last 24 hours. We'll be right back with a live show, current events, and sources to back it up in just a second. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. What is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you've never been here before, this is a live show, and we're going to go over all of the current events that are happening right now. You can also go over to marfooglenews.com and find a full bibliography for every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here today. Where this is headed needs to be addressed. Of course, when you see that page, you will be able to click on it, and then it will bring you to every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. Just look for today's thumbnail, and you'll find all that you need. Now, on top of this, at the very bottom, there is all of the overflow, all of the stuff that could not fit into the show, or the stuff that will get you in a bar fight if you start talking about. That is all down at the very bottom. So make sure to go check it out. There's tons of great stuff down there. And then let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What's going on, and how are you doing?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
By the way, I just noticed it clicked one of the actual... I don't know if this was a side one. I think this was overflow, but the picture they used for it was absolutely great. He's plugging his ears. That's what he's doing. Yeah. I think that's a UKR soldier. So yeah, I think he's talking to the taxpayers, but I'm not sure. Let's also remind you, make sure to go thank the mods. They are doing a great job keeping it peaceful. We're going to talk about everything that's going on around the world, so we're going to cover a wide variety of stuff, so just stick around. It's going to get pretty nuts. I will try to give a warning before the really stressful stuff happens. I do try if I think that there's stories that may cause panic or Some of those that are easily, easily anxiety, then I try to give a warning. And there is some stuff later that definitely is up there. We don't want to make people afraid, but I do want to warn you guys, the world's not really going real great right now. It's not rainbows and puppies. The FDIC returned $40 billion in U.S. Treasury funds, reversing withdrawal after the SVB takeover. Dex, do you want to go over this and why this is important?
So this is 40 billion that came out of the U.S. Treasury general account, and as many might remember, we're actually haven't raised our debt ceiling, so we're going to run out of money soon. So they literally took the money from that to bail out temporarily, and they did tell us, "Hey, we're not going to use taxpayer funds," even though they were borrowing money from the Treasury. So I guess they're officially letting us know that 40 billion was put right back after they took it out from the FDIC. So the FDIC is the insurance company who made the payment back to the U.S. Treasury. So now we have that cash back in our account, so we can continue to burn through the last bits of our cash before they raise the debt ceiling, which I think is going to run out. They've estimated June, July timeframe. Janet Yellen is the one who's shuffling money all over the place to try to make it last until the politicians can figure out their position.
Well, it's crazy that they can just grab that much money, $40 billion, and, kind of just sell it to themselves temporarily, right? Pretty nuts if you ask me. And then bank shares rebound off lows as big banks come to the aid of First Republic, another down and out bank being helped out. It says that shares of First Republic reversed their losses and regional bank stocks pushed higher as 11 major U.S. banks struck a rescue deal for the firm. First Republic shares closed up nearly 10% after the news, which is kind of, it's like, you would think that that's artificial, raising the stocks on this thing. If they are helping it, it just seems like this whole thing, there's a very kind of purposeful thing that kind of sits there right behind it. It says the stock had been down more than 30% earlier in the day. So even after going up 10%, it's still down 20%. But it said elsewhere the SPDR and S&P Regional Bank ETF rose 3.5%, while Western Alliance and Zions Bancorp gained 14.1 and 4.6 respectively. All three had declined earlier in the session. The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank last Friday has left investors scrambling to identify other regional banks that have had similar balance sheet issues, namely a high rate of uninsured deposits and bonds or loans with a long time to maturity. So these low percentage, low percentage long-term, assets that they have looked at on the old rates. Now there's all sorts of, new assets with higher percentages. Why would anybody want to go and grab these, low yield and long-term, assets? What's crazy to me is that when this happened, it was very kind of out of left field, or, in 2008, we had the Washington Mutual. We had a few years ago, there was 2020 or 2019, there was another bank, but it doesn't happen that often. But they are definitely pushing it in the media. They're pushing it everywhere. So it almost kind of just seems like they want people to be freaked out about this. A lot of people have left their small, credit unions and small banks, and now they have basically gone to the four major banks, right? But I just would like to point out that even the major banks can be knocked down. It doesn't matter how big the giant is. There's some sort of David out there for everybody. Dex, as far as the other banks that are involved, is now it's kind of like everybody's now paying attention, looking at all these banks. Are all of them going to have the same issues because of what happened since 2019?
If they have a lot of unsecured or uninsured deposits. In other words, if they've done some of those risky ventures like SVB did, then yeah, they're at risk. And I think the real challenge here is we as consumers, this is a complex situation. We as consumers don't understand this. Like this is not like what we don't learn this. We learn how to balance a checkbook. I mean, some of us do. I mean, if you're in finance and whatnot, you may understand this at a greater level, but for the most part, we don't. And like even myself, I'm getting much more educated about the banking system just because of what's going on. I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing. It's it would be nice if we thought all the citizens in America understood how the banking system works, but it's pretty darn complex. What I would like to see come out of this is some sort of rating system or mechanism by which we as consumers can understand when a bank is not doing so well versus one that is. In other words, one that has managed their deposits very well and has good healthy balance of what they should be doing versus somebody like SVB, which was in a really bad position. It would be nice if we could like see a scorecard, A, B, C, D, and F, or something simple that we could say, yeah, this doesn't feel right. I might want to consider moving my money or moving some of my money from this location to another because it's not good. This is a very complex issue, and I don't think for the most part the majority of Americans even understand it, outside of they just know if my money's not available, that's a bad thing.
Yeah, if you have a paycheck that's direct deposited and it's not direct deposited, then that's a bad thing, right? I don't know what percent, but it's a giant percent of Americans are check to check, and they're waiting on payday. If a bank collapses that they have their payday through, that can do some serious damage. And of course, what if it never comes back? What if the money that you put in your savings or your retirement account just disappears? And they say, oh, well, we'll get it to you sometime. U.S. Air Force unveils mutant missile that can twist in air, change direction faster. Sounds kind of like what Russia was saying that they had years ago, but they now have public knowledge of it, and they're coming out with it in the public that we have it. It says that the U.S. Air Force last week unveiled a new missile system that will have more maneuverability to change direction in the air and strike targets faster. The new articulating missiles were developed through the USAF's missile utility transformation via articulated nose technology. I'm not kidding you. That's missile utility transformation via articulated nose technology. It is called Mutant. Mutant. It says the concept of missile articulation dates as far back as the 1950s, but it wasn't possible until the rise of modern technology because of the ability to be able to make the small chips and to make the small parts to make, basically robotic technology and this kind of stuff. The Air Force Research Laboratory showed how the new mutant missiles would work during a demonstration at the Air and Space Forces Association Warfare Symposium in Aurora, Colorado. AFRL says that it has developed an electronically controlled actuation system comprising of electromagnetic motors, bearings, gears, and structure. A composite skin structure will protect the actuation components from the environment while maintaining a smoother outer mold line, or OML. It says AFRL added that morphing weapons technology will allow continuous OML, or outer mold line, change to tailor performance of each phase of the flight. The Missile Control Actuation System, or CAS, will allow the missile to have more range, maneuverability, and agility, enabling the missiles to be more effectively close in on targets. So Dex, how they destroy that, how they describe this, it sounds like it's got like a worm head or something that it moves around, and it has an outer skin on it that essentially, like a rubber skin or something, or whatever material they're using, that covers it up. So you have like it's kind of like how I guess they are able to turn this thing by moving the head of it, right? Is that what they are saying?
It sounds like the head is got some sort of dynamics to it, and by rotating it, they're able to shift its trajectory in addition to whatever I guess the wings currently do and propulsion does. And I'm just envisioning like, because it's not like we've sat around and looked at a dogfight up close and in person. It's not like we're flying jets or anything. So the best we have is movies. So I'm envisioning like you've seen in the movies where a plane is getting a missile shot at it and it breaks really quick and it's able to maneuver sharp enough that the missile can't maneuver sharp enough and the missile flies by. And in this scenario, it sounds like they've got a much greater level of adjusting that trajectory so that they can make a U-turn or a sharp turn or things like that, where missiles haven't been able to do that as easily, or it took them a much wider path to make those turns.
Think about this. This is like bending bullets. Think about it. If take it like it's a giant bullet, and the head of the bullet can turn, and the aerodynamics would make it curve and basically spin around. That's what this is. They're saying electromagnetic, so the electromagnetic motors are, basically moving inside, and it's able to move, but yet because they're going at such high speeds, the reason why they need the composite skin is because the air would catch any little lip. When you're going hypersonic speeds, even a tiny little lip of metal or something would slow it down or make it freak out. So they have kind of like a cast on it. This stuff is nuts. So it's kind of good news. It's great news to hear that Western technology is about to kick everybody's ass. It hasn't been like that for a while. So hopefully this thing is everything they say it is. Dex, go ahead.
Do you think there's a department in the DoD that just is solely responsible for creating these acronyms?
Yeah, we have to come up with like a crazy stupid acronym for the Department of Acronyms. So okay, that's the chat's mission. Come up with an acronym for the hypothetical department that comes up with DoD acronyms, and we will. I'll even put it in the title of a show if it's really good. All right, and then Naval Research Lab launches first in-space laser energy experiment. So this is something that we've already it's like this has already existed, right? But now they're coming out publicly and talking about. It said that the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory launched the Space Wireless Energy Laser Link, or SWEL. This is another one. Late Tuesday to demonstrate laser power beaming in space as part of the scheduled Defense Department Space Test Program H-9 mission to the International Space Station, according to the agency announcement. The SWEL experiment was launched aboard the SpaceX Dragon cargo vehicle to the ISS to, quote, collect data during a laser power beaming link in space conditions. Now, Dex, remember when some technology came out when they were talking about the power, they were able to beam a power through a laser. So you could literally power something wirelessly from hundreds of miles away, if not thousands, possibly even millions. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that. And I think, I don't know if it was space they were doing it in, but definitely this has been done before, or definitely researched before.
I think it was from space to Earth. So they were able to take a satellite, beam down to Earth, and power something using this crazy laser technology. But essentially, they're using lasers in Star Wars fashion, and they're doing things that are absolutely nuts. It says, according to the announcement, power beaming is a way to deliver energy in the form of electromagnetic waves that do not require transporting mass alongside them. It says, so energy can be sent almost instantaneously. This method has been proven achievable on the ground and is now being tested in space. Specifically, it will explore the challenges for power beaming and its viability in space applications, as well as the highlight possibility for using power beaming to address Earth's energy challenges. So what they could also use this for, and I believe most of this is for military application, but they're saying they could put up huge solar panels in space and then beam that power down to Earth. It almost makes you question like what, Starlink is supposedly doing. They're making this grid around Earth. Maybe it's something like this, and slowly they're going to start releasing, more and more information about what it really is, right? It said, with this modest experiment, we will identify key focus areas for developing links of greater power and longer distance for space. It says, by employing laser transmitters and photovoltaic receivers, power beaming links will be established that will pave the way for rapid, resilient, and flexible energy delivery systems. So also one thing to think about is if they do see something coming like an EMP, or if they believe an EMP is possible, an electromagnetic pulse, something knocking down our grid, the military and, of course, government agencies, they would probably have a solution to power their own buildings and to keep their systems up, right? Like we've said a million times, if things go down, if SHTF happens, I believe our military, everybody, they're going to be good. But civilians, they're not going to, we're going to be on our own. Especially if you look at any really big disaster like Hurricane Katrina. Basically, all of the officials went and saved their own families instead of staying at their post. Dex, go ahead.
I wonder how this compares to, say, the Wardenclyffe Tower that that Nikola Tesla built, or the actual one that's in Milford, Texas, that's built by, I think it's called, look it up here, Visviv Technologies. That's that Tesla tower that looks like a modern version of the Wardenclyffe Tower that's in Texas. I wonder how that type of tech plays into what they're doing here. I know that's a little bit different, but it is sending energy wirelessly. So that's what they're trying to accomplish.
Let's see here. Jason says FUD, Federal Underwriting of Decision-Making Directives. Beachy, Stephen McMahon. Let's see here. We've got Master Blocker, radioactive leak in Minnesota. Yes, I believe we'll be covering that. And then Huru TV, who remember the good old days? Let's see here. P. Lee. Does Dex know John X Army? I haven't seen John X Army in a long time. The last time I saw him, he was on TikTok. Mingle64. My payments went up $50 a month for each of the last 2 years, so now it's $100 a month increase. And then Paul Petrov, science brought to you by the W, H, and the O. Donna, Department of Nomenclature Naming Assignment. I don't know if it's title worthy, but BOS, Department of BS. See, it has to be a super big acronym. They are insane with their acronyms. We have covered a lot of them. Something is coming. Don't be a sitting duck, says BCats. Paul Henry, thanks for rotating your camera. I think the other day it was like way off. I drive by that place in Milford, Texas twice a week. What's going on in Milford, Texas? I don't know if Jewish Special Rangers to me, says MTG. Yeah, with another tank for a power supply. I thought KG was a rocket man. Steven Story, nice to see you. And then Zen1AZ, hey, nice to see you. P. Lee, love you too. Kathleen D. Marv, Paul, and Adrian channels taken down. They're now on Rumble. I just got the email today, actually, Dave. Thank you for letting me know. I don't even know whether I haven't seen their new channel yet, but that's exactly why. It's like, and he didn't do anything that I don't think deserved that, right? But that's, again, people talk about why we do the things we do here, and they're like, I'll never do that. But then they're just not here anymore. It's really messed up. Let's see, Callie Singh. Prayers for my sister. She has lung cancer. Della W, I'll be praying for you. I'll pray for your sister. And praying for you as well. Ford Jones says, heard the SVB failure might have had to do with the Mike Gill presented about what New Hampshire money laundering. Somebody got the warning and pulled their money out all at once. Well, one thing is for sure, a lot of people pulled their money out and were told to pull their money out beforehand. One of the CEOs was telling people to do it. It's kind of crazy because just a month before that, Mad Money Mike or whatever was telling people to buy their stocks. I'm sure people are pretty pissed off at that show. Before we move on, this is pretty crazy. Israeli president warns of civil war as Netanyahu rejects judicial compromise. Before we do, I want to remind you that same Air Force lab has actually helped with the new Energy Flex Tactical. If you guys haven't checked this out, this one does have a waiting list. It is a pre-order, so you can't even get them yet. But when you can, these are going to be military-grade solar generators. Again, with help designing this with the Air Force Laboratory. So this thing is absolutely the top of the line energy. So if you do want to go look into that, if you're into tactical everything, then definitely would go and check that out. One of the biggest things is that this can heat itself in extremely cold temperatures, which is a giant deal. As far as, being able to go in any kind of temperature, it's pretty awesome. Not only can it cool itself down, but it can heat itself up. And then, of course, steel instead of aluminum housing. So, and then make sure to go over and check out the other ones. Kodiak X2 is available almost right now. I believe that there's very little wait. And then, of course, that is at marfooglenews.com/energy. That is, again, at energy. And then also make sure to use that code Marfoogle, because that will get you a special discount and you'll help our channel at the same time. Dex, do you want to go over the Israeli president warns of civil war?
So there's a lot of political consternation going on there in the country, and they do not seem to be coming to a compromise on some of the issues that were at hand. And the president, Isaac Herzog, literally said that it, and I'm going to quote here, the last few weeks have been tearing us apart, the president said. Israel is in the throes of a profound crisis, and anyone who thinks that a real civil conflict of human life is a line that we will not reach has no idea. The abyss is within touching distance. In other words, he is saying because of the divide right now in their country, with Netanyahu recently taking over, and others conflicting with him, and they're trying to reach some sort of agreement, that they're at the verge of potentially going to blows with one another inside their own country. Now, mind you, this is all happening at the same time that same country is trying to go after Iran for their nuclear development. And they're, saying they're going to go, take out those bases or sites that are building that are deep underground. So, it's not necessarily a good place to be to have, potential internal conflict within your country when you're even trying to wage your own conflict outside.
Yeah, because they're threatening and they're pushing to go after Iran at the same time as, all of this is going down. As far as the Middle East, it's a huge hot point. And if this is at all true, I mean, look at all of the different big flashpoints are all heating up at the same time. It seems common sense that something has to break. The levee on one of these dams is going to break. And any of these is going to probably involve the U.S. Unfortunately, we have our nose everywhere. If you're in Europe, then just as bad, because you are allied with us. If you're in Australia, or if you're anywhere else, you're most likely, if you're watching YouTube, you're in most of the allied countries. So it's probably going to affect you in some way, some which way, whether it's economically or physically or your family. Who knows? There's probably some of you that have family over there. And then Gaddafi's uranium drums accidentally stolen, says warlord who claims he found them. Uranium. It says that more than 2 tons of Colonel Gaddafi's uranium was accidentally stolen, according to a Libyan warlord who claims to have found it in the desert. It says General Khalid al-Majoub, commander of Eastern Strongman Khalifa Haftar's communications division, said on his Facebook group, that the containers of uranium had been recovered barely 5 kilometers from where they had been stored in the Sabna area of southern Libya. It says General Majab published a video showing a man in a protective suit counting 18 blue containers, which was the total that had been stored at the site. It says the situation is under control. The IAEA has been informed. He suggested that the containers had been stolen and then abandoned by a Chadian faction who thought they were weapons or ammunition. They would have been, and if the wrong people think about all of the instances where something like this happens. Something about this seems really fishy, though. And then where is that uranium going to end up? Now, Dex, they can't just take. There's a huge difference between like enriched uranium and regular uranium, right?
That's correct. This is yellow cake. So it was something that Momar was holding because he wanted to leverage it at some point in the future. We actually went in and tried to negotiate and make sure they did not sell it to the I country. Obviously, everyone knows that they're the ones that are really trying to develop the next one on the block with nuclear weapons, so to speak. So we had pushed for them not to do that, and they said, "Hey, we're not going to give it to you, but we won't sell it to them, but we're going to sell it to somebody that's allowed to buy it when the price is high." All that sort of fell apart. Nobody paid attention, and then all of a sudden, this warlord was in charge of that area where all of these weapons were stored, and that's how this story came to be. Kind of crazy when you think about it, but yes, to your question. It is yellow cake, so it is just pure. It's not enriched. It does have to go through like a centrifuge process where they enrich it. I think they estimated you can make 5.6 kilograms from a ton. So if they had, what was it, 2.5 tons, so they could have made 10, 11, maybe 12 kilograms.
So they could, that could be a pretty big nuke. Or I guess what would that be? How big was the Japan and the Nagasaki and the other one? Weren't those were not that much of a yield compared to today's standards. Either way, they had this uranium and it was not enriched. Somebody said, yeah, it needs much processing. But I just wonder, there's already warheads. There's actual missing warheads, and not a lot of people talk about that. It's like, where are all of the missing warheads? One of these days, somebody's going to get their hands on them that wants to use them. So we'll see what happens here. But I just think the timing is pretty sus, considering all of the other things that are going on right now. And then Ray the Way, thank you. Appreciate your support there. It says permanent change of station. Ray the Way, thank you. Richard Turner, thank you. I get my news from you and a couple of other sites. You, Dex, and the team are doing an amazing job. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. And then B&B, thank you for the support. You can always write a comment there. And then Matt J, thank you as well. If you do a super chat, you can always write a message. And then, hi Adam, I sent you an important email. Look for an email from Apocalypse Meow, 1977. Please read that email. It says important in subject line. Thanks. Matt J, thank you. And I guess that's probably what your first one was trying to say. DOA would be my guess, says Ame Kitsune. Ame X Kitsune. Well, thank you. And dead on arrival. Somebody had acronym selection service. So ASS, I guess. That was a pretty good. Somebody else had one that was really long. It was asinine. That one was pretty good too. You guys, or the people are still coming up with acronyms. Because I know that's the kind of thing, like if I hear, I'll sit there for 4 hours. My wife will be like, shush, be quiet. Keep coming up with stupid acronyms. Chinese companies are shipping rifles body armor to Russia. So I gave my opinion on this over on Marfoogle News on our main channel in the short shareable video. But just to kind of sum it up, I'm not surprised by this. You're not surprised by this. No one is surprised by this because you have all followed all of the news here. You've seen that they said that they were no limits partners before the Ukraine thing even started. So this is like This goes along with the territory. They are going to send a whole lot more than rifles and body armor if this keeps going. This is only going to go the way we think it's going. And again, up until the first, when we have some sort of Pearl Harbor 2.0, up until then, there's going to be people that are saying, "Oh no, it's all nothing." I don't personally think so, and I think everybody should have their own opinion on it. If it goes against mine, that's totally fine. But I do believe we are headed into a huge conflict. I can see all of the pieces being moved all around the world. And I am warning people, if you do trust our judgment, then I would highly recommend getting yourself and getting your ducks in a row. Dex, do you want to make some comment about how obviously China is helping?
Well, this is there's a couple things here to unpack. One, what are we going to do about it? We've made statements like if G gets involved supplying, weapons or equipment or other things like that to Vlad for the UKR invasion, then that would be a big red line that we wouldn't want to see them cross. And that's why G was running around with this peace plan, trying to get credit for that and pull together talks. This will be interesting. I don't know if this is enough of a smoking bang bang, so to speak, literally or not. For that, but it definitely starts to point the picture in the direction of what our military was saying and our intelligence was saying, and our intelligence even said they had the information and they would release it at some point. This is probably not it. This was a different information. Now, the second thing in here I thought was kind of funny was that they called them quote unquote civilian hunting rifles, as opposed to being military. So taking a playbook out of the conversation that goes on quite often here in America about our bang bangs, but they used that as the term for what those were when they were being transported. But they are really a CQA, which is modeled off of an M16.
Yeah, they're off-brand. They're Walmart brand M16. No way, says Chinese body armor? Pass. You see a tag said made in China and go, crap. Maybe I'll just find something to get behind. And then UKR's armed forces shoot down Chinese-made drone, the Mujin 5. So, and by the way, they sell this on Alibaba. Yeah, the same Alibaba that you can, buy random trinkets and tiny gadgets on, apparently sells $15,000 military-grade drones. It says that the UKR armed forces shot down a Chinese-made Mujin 5 in eastern UKR last Sunday. It said that the wreckage of a downed drone was shown to the journalists by the UKR military. According to them, the UAV was shot down with AK-47 assault rifles. One thing I want to point out is like the media that is ingrained, it's just it to me, I never listen or believe to anything where the military goes, "Come over here," and the reporter walks through the scene. In the very beginning, we had one where there was a scene of people all over the place on the ground, and they said, "This is very graphic." They ended up showing the real view of it, and it was like totally where they walked them through and they purposely, staged things. That's what I don't. I anything like this in the very beginning, they wouldn't even let journalists embed with them. Now it's to the point where anything they want to show you, they will show you. It's all very directed. Even if it does happen, it did happen, all of this, that it's very purposefully. They grab the CNN reporter, bring them right to the spot and do it. Both of these countries, UKR and Russia, are very good at Ganda. It literally, they all went to the same Ganda school. It's part of a very long tradition there. They're very good at wartime Ganda. It is part of a war strategy is to have disinformation. So I don't know what's going on here, but it seems like obviously they're telling us and making, pushing us to think, hey, this is China's fault, that China is now helping them in every which way. At the same time, by the way, this armor stuff, this happened in June of 2022, and it comes out on the same day as this drone. So I don't think that's really a coincidence. Do you guys? I do believe China is involved, and I'm not surprised by any of that. But why is it coming out now? Why, on top of all of the other events, why is this happening the same day that Israeli president warns of a civil conflict? Why does this happen the same week that NK and South K are about to go off? The South African president is having beef with this other person. India and Pakistan are having their issues. It's like there's huge issues happening at every hot point in the world, all at the same time. You know what else all of these same countries did? All of these countries did simultaneously. They all worked with the whole CV thing, and when that happened, everybody was on the same page. So since then, there's been a global kind of event happening everywhere. You see the same thing happening all over the world, the same kind of protest, the same division. I mean, think about it. It doesn't matter where you are in Australia, or if you're in Europe, or if you're in Mexico, they have a left-right division now. It's insane. It's the same playbook being played all over the world. And again, part of it is that the internet now brings everybody into one space. So internet, in a way, has helped the whole global initiative and get us all on the same page as far as misinfo, disinfo, and all of that. Dex, as far as the drone, that's a pretty sweet drone. $15,000. Anybody could have one. I'd rather have a Toyota, but
yeah, I guess I guess this is, since you can buy it on Alibaba, I'm just, again, this is getting into that line where we, are saying that Xi shouldn't be helping Vlad, but is this that? And since it can just be ordered online and shipped anywhere, I don't know if it crosses that line, so to speak, but I do go back to what are we going to do about it? But that's what, both of these stories are. It's obviously these investigators are getting in and trying to get as much information out about this topic, about whether or not China is playing a role in the UKR conflict, and if they are, at what level. Obviously, our intelligence organization has something on it, and and it will be interesting to see if they'll release it. I don't know if they will, but as they get more remnants of things like this, again, this not as bad because it's like it's a commercial type product, I guess, or at least it seems that way. I'm sure it can be adjusted. I mean, it'd be no different than a DJI, right? If they were using DJI, would you hold
think about
accountable for that?
Think about that. The UKR military is using DJI drones made in China to go over Russian troops and to take their lives. So it's the same thing. It's like China is responsible for that too if you take they manufactured it. I think it's super sus that this thing is literally available on Alibaba. $15,000 when you have $40 billion budget given to you by another country. They could easily order these things and put them on. But why are they trying to push us towards China? And I'm the first one to say that China is doing bad things. And I tell people it every day that China's behind a ton of this, right? That's my opinion. But this, why is it on front page news? And it just so happens that this thing anybody can buy this, and then they show it destroyed. Look at how it's destroyed, by the way. It's almost like I wonder if they laid it out for this picture, or they probably gathered the parts. It's not like it crashed into a museum quality display here. It's like literally laid out. So maybe they gathered it, but it's like $15,000 isn't even a drop in the bucket for the money that they have. There was 9 people, and this is the people that are like, oh, are you against UKR? No, I'm not against anybody, but I will say this. We know as of just a few years ago, before all of this happened, that everyone knew that it was one of the most corrupt places on the planet. 9 of their main people, the people right underneath the president, just resigned because they were being looked at for having $1 million mansions and supercars. I mean, like, something was going on there, obviously. So $15,000 drone, and then they drag a reporter over, and I don't know. It seems very pushed. Dex, go ahead.
Well, I wonder if Vlad is paying the 15,000 for this, this is becoming part of Russia's arsenal, so to speak, and how many he's buying, or is and if so, does he get a discount code on Alibaba when he places the order from G? I don't know, but obviously super inexpensive. And again, this goes probably back to that now. Convenient they were able to use an AK to take it down, so obviously didn't cost a lot, but compared to the other drones that Vlad has been flying, we were dropping $500,000 or around that ballpark to take them down each time.
I don't know, it doesn't even look like a $15,000 drone, but if Vlad did buy it, he probably got a really good discount. And then before we move on, just a reminder, make sure if you do not have yourself set up as far as food, we have a really great resource for you. A lot of you will probably already be looking at something like the My Patriot Supply. This is freeze-dried food that lasts 25 years. And of course, you actually get huge discount with our code, and you're helping independent media at the same time. This comes as a package. Now, you can get smaller packages. You can get a 3-day kit that can go in a go bag. You can get single meals. You can get 1 week, a 2 week. You can get all sorts of different packages of the freeze-dried food. But the 3-month is definitely the best deal because you always get a huge discount or you get a freebie. I believe right now they still have the Alexa Pure Pro, which is a water filtration system. It's a gravity-fed water filtration system that can do a whole lot of water at once. This is something you'll need in an SHTF situation. And right now, it's free on top of 3 months of food. And the 3 months of food freeze-dried is compact. It's really amazing what all freeze-dried food can do as far as space. If you have 3 months of food in canned foods, it's going to take up a whole shelf. These can fit down to a couple of buckets. So it's a really space-saving measure. And with most people not having more than 3 days of food in their fridge, it's pretty important that people start getting stocked up, whether it be for SHTF or just for a regional disaster, a power outage, a rolling blackout, an earthquake, a hurricane. It's Murphy's Law. Something will happen, and it may not be World War III. It could just be the next storm that comes through. But yeah, both of these, then you'll have food and water covered. marfooglenews.com/prep. And then, of course, you will get a huge discount or a freebie, depending on which package you go with. All right, and then let's see here. We have military releases footage showing Russian fighter jet forcing down U.S. drone. So if you are easily stressed and anxiety, there's a couple pieces here. If you don't like scary movies, don't watch scary movies. Things are definitely heating up. But, it seems very pushed and very artificial. It says they did release the footage. Now we have the encounter, and we didn't go to YouTube or anything like that. We went directly to the source, and I thought it was kind of interesting. This was just to show you the main page here. This was yesterday's show. In the near future. This is yesterday. Kind of absorb that. This is today. The video was released of the drone. Just thought that was oddly freaky. But here is the video of the actual incident, or what they released so far. You can kind of see the Russian jet there. Here, shrink down myself here, and then you see the propellers stop or slow down, and then you would think, by the way, it looks like they slow down before it hits. He comes
It's
in.
rolling shutter.
I don't think so. I thought it was rolling shutter. But then look, then it comes back. And now it's bent. So you don't actually see the incident. And they put in a color bar screen. Right? Or I'm not saying they put it in. I'm saying that's, like you said, Dex, it could be like the satellite, the go-to feed if they lose transmission. That looks like it hit. So that's not rolling shutter. Look, I don't think that's rolling shutter. I think that's literally not going. And that is after it hit. So I guess that would make sense, right? Where is the camera at? How did it... What do you guys think? CGI, easy background or not? This is an op here, boys. Jeffrey Arosas. Wonder if I should get Zen Wen. Let's see here. Snippets. Looks like the MiG is taking a whiz on it. Okay, so like, just to play this one more time. So this comes up on it, and then horrible timing. And apparently it only hit the blade. And then right here, you're going to see it here in a second. The blades are fine right here. Dumps fuel. Why did they change the angles? That's what I want to know. Why did they zoom in? Why couldn't they just show the original footage? And if that is the original footage, it doesn't look like the same. They zoomed in on it. They left something out. Here's a little chunk in the air too. They freeze it right at the very end. There's a chunk. But if you go right here, you can see the bent blade. Right? This is important because they're trying to utilize this to escalate, right? This was an unmanned aircraft, but it's $32 million, and it's a U.S. aircraft that was purposely damaged by Russian aircraft. And when you see it comes up, these were professional pilots. So I don't know if this was like some Top Gun stuff where he was able to do this on purpose. But look at that, Dex. How did was the blade spinning? And did they ever release if the Russian plane, how it was damaged?
I don't think Russia's denying there was any contact. I think so. I don't think they would release anything. Maybe what I'm interpreting when I watch this is that because there was two planes. Maybe the first plane came through and got close and dumped fuel, and then the second plane tried to do the exact same thing, but missed by a few feet and touched the prop, and that's why we're seeing the prop bent. If that's not shutter roll.
And it could be shutter. It could be rolling shutter, but it just doesn't. Why? If they're going to release the footage, release the. And I thought they said that it was 40 minutes. Well, didn't they said it was a 40-minute long thing? They released like 30 seconds.
I think in the description there it says that they did edit this, but it portrays everything that happened. They edited it for time.
I guess I wonder if we can get the actual, and wait, but this is the actual Defense Visual Information Distribution Service. So this is the government's way of getting the information out there. So I don't know. Whatever happened here, it is being used to push us into a worse situation. At least that's how most people are taking it. And then NATO is urged to respond after Russia performed blatant attack. So after the video comes out and it confirms what was said initially, or at least that's what they're saying it is, now there's all of these bigwigs urging them to do something, to basically, they crossed a red line, now we need to do something. This would be the lamest Fantastic Freddy to start a war ever. next to the balloon, right? The balloon was, if that would have triggered something big, it would be like, really? A balloon? NATO has been urged to respond after a Russian fighter jet slammed into a U.S. drone. Conservative MB Tobias Elwood, chair of the Defense Select Committee, described the incident as a blatant attack over international airspace. Remember his position. That's what's pretty important about this. It's asked if NATO needs to take action to prevent escalation. The MP from Bournemouth East said that it should not pass without consequences. Dramatic footage of the crash, which occurred between the Russian fighter jet and U.S. surveillance drone over the Black Sea on Tuesday, was released by the U.S. military European Command. The video was recently declassified. The two aircraft collided over the Black Sea on Tuesday, with the Russian jet striking the propeller of the U.S. drone. It says, in a statement, the U.S. European Command said that two Russian fighter jets conducted an unsafe and unprofessional intercept, the USMQ Reaper drone that was operating within international airspace over the Black Sea. The camera on the drone shows its tail and the rear-mounted propeller spinning before the approaching Russian Sukhoi fighter dumps fuel on it and intercepts the U.S. drone. It said Mr. Elwood told the Daily Express the incredible incident is a reflection of how one local incident can escalate and tensions and trigger a wider conflict. He's saying that that the incredible incident, this incident, is a reflection. So showing how one incident can trigger a wider conflict. Has he been in a meeting that we don't know about? Is this triggering a wider conflict that we don't know about? You see what I'm saying? He said he could say that could escalate tensions and possibly trigger a wider conflict. He's saying and trigger a wider conflict. He's already been in 2 meetings before this. So you wonder what was said in those closed door meetings. Was this like a slip? The way he said it just caught me. Did it catch you? It said this incident illustrates how drone warfare is altering the character of conflict. Russia would not have dumped fuel if the plane had been manned. But this was a blatant attack over international airspace and should not pass without consequences. The drone has not yet been retrieved, and it is uncertain whether it will be retrieved, or at least by us. And then, of course, we covered where we covered it earlier. We're going to go over it again. Strange activity in the Black Sea. So, Dex, you want to talk about what they're seeing? At least 20 boats, according to this. 20. There's naval activity all over the place. They have at least 4 missile carriers. Something is happening, right? But we don't know exactly what.
You said it exactly. That's exactly what's happening. There is a lot of ships, a lot of Russian ships moving around, and it's at a level that has not been seen before. Now, we've covered some of these missile ships coming in. I think even yesterday we were talking about another one adding to a total of 3 and bringing more munitions to that area, something that they hadn't done in a while. But now I guess some are speculating that a lot of the activity is them trying to get to the drone location and try to recover it, them being Russia specifically. The U.S. is not there. I don't even know that we're going to go there. We've even said, that we took care of destroying anything that was sensitive or valuable. And we've said it's 4,000 feet underwater, and that's, pretty difficult to recover at that level, and probably not worth it. So it'll be, but as far as all these ships, even if this is not drone related, then this is definitely showing more along the lines of escalation with the Navy from Vlad's side, and bringing in a lot more into the Black Sea and into the conflict area with UKR.
Yep, and we'll follow it as it goes along. Our main message here is that obviously it's not getting better. People are just waiting for this to just kind of fade out like every other story over the last 20 years, but I think it's due. We're due for the big one. And then 1 perished in blast at FSB border patrol building in southern Russia. Specialists extinguished the fire following an explosion in the building belonging to the border patrol section of Russia's FSB Federal Security Service in a built-up district of the southern city of Rostov-on-Don. In Rostov-on-Don, at least one person perished and 2 were injured on Thursday in a blast and fire at a building belonging to the Border Patrol of Russia's FSB security service in the southern city of Rostov. It said, according to local officials quoted by Russian news agencies. Footage captured by Reuters showed a plume of thick black smoke billowing into the air near residential buildings and a shopping center in a built-up district of the city. Rostov Governor Vasily Golubev said that the fire appeared to have been caused by an electrical short circuit. The spread of fire caused containers of fuel and lubricants to explode, he said in a message posted on his Telegram channel. Nearby buildings were evacuated and authorities opened an investigation, Golubev said, adding that the fire had spread to an area of more than 800 square meters. Russian news agencies quoted local emergency services as saying 1 person had perished and 2 more injured in the incident. So, something strange went down there. Dex?
Yeah, I'm not buying it. This is FSB. This is, formerly KGB. This is their intelligence organization. This is their, counter-terror organization. This is a group that is highly targeted. And we know, even in the last recent incidences of special operators of UKR going across the border, that the stories that were told from the Russian media there were completely fabricated to cover up what actually went down, because they didn't want everyone to know that they were attacked or they were hit in a certain way. So for them to say, it's just an electrical fire, nothing to see here, this was kind of a big deal. It was a very large event there, and I suspect that we're only hearing one side of the story, and it's the side that they want to protect their image and impression of. I think something else went on here with probably from UKR, and probably with somebody that went across the border there.
Yeah, something strange in the neighborhood. Who are you going to call? Ray the Way says, I don't think you guys realize how flexible the lower 360 camera is. By the way, the video is definitely chopped. Well, they said it's out of 40 minutes of video, they chopped it down to 1 minute. By the way, it's definitely chopped. It's out of sequence. It looks like the Russian pilot was trying to identify the country of origin and got too close. Oh, so you're saying the drone pilot was moving around the camera and then they saw it. By the way, Fantastic Freddy's, there could be paint involved, right? Identify the country of origin and got too close. Ray the Way. Very interesting. Again, you could be right. I don't know. I haven't seen the full video. And then MSB 9021 says acronym creation review organization name yield manifestation. That's a pretty good one. So the acronym making organization is called Acronym. That's right up their alley. And then Zen1AZ, thank you as always. Thank you for your support and the hearts. I appreciate that. Jane from Tennessee, God bless. Thank you. And then James Wright, radioactive waste leak in Minnesota. Again, I believe we'll be talking about that here in a second. So, Dex, I'm pretty sure we have that, or at least what we think it is, right?
Yeah, we have. You can grab it out of Screener. We've got an updated version of it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, the first reports were a little iffy. Also, people have been talking about a new derailment. There's derailments all over the place. But the one thing you have to think about too is there was over 1,000 derailments a year before this. In America, 50 states, 1,000 derailments, there's going to be multiple per state every month. The big thing to pay attention to is anyone with the hazardous stuff and how it is handled. The thing is there's been hazardous spills before, but if it is handled wrong and it ends up affecting hundreds of thousands of people, that's where there's responsibility needs to be taken, and somebody needs to pony up, to either help or to fix the problem, right? And many people believe, most people believe that somebody dropped the ball on the Ohio one. And let's see here. Thank you over on DLive. Yobi, I appreciate you. Thank you, Kimbria. Vicky K, whether you're here or not, always shout you out even if you don't make it. Laura Griffith, Animated Adventures. CDK, it's been nice to see you. Hope you're still creating. Nice to see you over on DLive still. D-Man, let's see here. Defy Tyrants, 650, thank you. Espiritu, Animated Adventures, again, thank you for all of the lemons over there. Poco Loco. Beer Juice says dumb ass for DOD acronym, but what does it stand for? You got to do what it stands for. Yeah, you could combine that other person's, acronym selection service. So that could be the ass part. You got to figure out what dumb means. DOD. Yeah. I don't want to waste everybody's time because I will sit there for 4 hours going, dumbass. All right. And then, Dex, what was it?
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the jet again with the drone. And maybe it's more of a question for anybody out there that would know in the military. When a fighter pilot thinks he's about to crash, is dumping your fuel a normal activity? Because, on one hand, they're saying they're dumping the fuel to sort of be disrespectful or be brazen to the drone. But is it possible this guy's coming in and realizes he's too tight or he's not going to make it, and is he dumping fuel to lessen the impact that may happen? I don't know. I just don't know why they would dump fuel.
Well, that's a good thing too. And by the way, I'm not in the Air Force, but I've seen enough movies to know that they always, especially there was a recent one with Gerard Butler where they dump the fuel before they land because they don't want to be, if they're landing hard, they don't want to be an explosion. I think 2012, that movie, they did it too. There's all sorts of movies where they dump the fuel so they're not like a stick of dynamite hitting the ground. When they hit with a bunch of fuel, airline fuel is extremely explosive. Keep in mind, it still doesn't heat up to, 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, but you know what I mean. But it is explosive. So did he not see it last second or something? But that's why the 40 minutes should be shown. What if they're taking an accident and making it look purposeful, right? It's a possibility. We don't know what the actual agenda behind it is. Other than most of us believe they are trying to get us face first into a conflict. And that conflict will allow tons of rule changes, tons of executive orders, tons of ways of life changes that will never go back to normal. Big Brother changes. And then Pentagon accelerator cell to expand weapons production. Before we talk about that, just a quick reminder, if you do want to protect yourself against EMP, go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. EMP Shield works with the DoD, DHS, and they're on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. You can actually get the same protection, Keystone military tested protection for your homes, your cars, your trucks, your boats, your motorcycles, your RVs, even your ham radio, and even your Flex 1500 solar generator. They make one for gas generators as well. Pretty much anything that you want to protect against either an EMP or a CME, a solar-related event, or a coronal mass ejection. If we have a Carrington event happen like we did the other day and it actually hits us, it could do a grid down scenario, which is not good for anybody. If you want your stuff to keep running, get an EMP shield on it. Wire it into your car in less than 10 minutes, and your car will still run so you can bug out, or it will still run so you can bug in. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. It's a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, down to the screws. Make sure to go check it out. And then the Pentagon, they have this program. It says, with an eye on China and replenishing weapons sent to UKR, the Pentagon is launching a cell within its acquisition office to spearhead expand weapons production lines. So you kind of have to try to read between the lines here too. It says the Joint Production Accelerator Cell would serve as a new organization for the team of defense officials who helped ramp up production of aid sent to UKR, including javelins, stingers, and 155 millimeter artillery rounds. And it would broaden it to other weapons. We are institutionalizing that effort into a permanent production accelerator. Instead of it being reactive and standing up in a crisis, Pentagon Acquisition Chief Bill LaPlante said that the question we are now posing to this new team is, how do we ramp production up and down more flexibly and cheaply in the future? So what have we pointed out for years? Everything is speeding up. Now they're literally telling us that they're speeding up production of everything. Dex, when you read this, what did you think?
Well, I was thinking about how much we're in the hole to UKR as far as our own stockpiles, and hoping that this was going to replenish that and not just create more that we ship over. I would like to think that we would not put ourselves in a position where we're defenseless or have lesser of a defense than we normally should. This is also indicative, though, of the fact that if you think we're about to go to a broader conflict, then we need more munitions. So for them to do something like accelerate, and that basically means that we can't make things fast enough. We have to have another group do it for us, or another group get behind us. So this is the precursor to the Defense Act, where the president steps in and tells people to make stuff faster, or takes over companies and have them do it. I don't know. We'll have to see. But this, it is eye opening. It is important. On one hand, I think it's good because I think we gave away so much. But on the other hand, it's a little scary too. If we need to be making this and ramping it up, and this is one of those steps to do it. What are they preparing for?
Yeah. If you want to list your guesses in the comments down below, if you're watching the replay, let me know what you think. Speaking of which, thank you, Kelly ZC3CD. Thank you for the super thanks on last night's show. Let's see here. We could lose everything. Thank you so much for the super thanks. Says, always watching your replay. Great information, Adam. Peace and grace to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see. And Neil Butler, thank you. And then Jessica Mathis from Rules of Engagement. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys that pop in on the replay and do that. So thank you. Let's see here. We have Putin is preparing for a nuclear showdown, and we must be ready. It says that Russia downing a U.S. drone yesterday was a deliberate provocation. It is a concerning incident, but such brinkmanship feels destined to get worse. Do you see the angle in the narrative here, by the way, by multiple pieces, syndicated articles? They're saying that they aim to do this because they are trying to push us, and that could be true. But just keep in mind, what if, like Dex said, what if that thing was... It was below him and he didn't see it, and then dumped fuel so he wouldn't blow up or something. It could be 10 different things. We don't know. It is a wartime, so there's going to be Ganda all over the place. Russia downing a U.S. drone yesterday was a deliberate provocation. It was a concerning incident, but such brinkmanship feels destined to get worse. It is a small fry compared to where things could go if we are not prepared. Vlad is in one corner, his position weakening every day as Western tanks start to appear over the horizon. As long as the spring offensive approaches, the great Russian push in eastern UKR appears to be petering out at a massive human cost to the aggressors. Last week's huge volley of missiles, including the much vaunted unstoppable hypersonic ones, have passed with a whimper, and sanctions are at last sending the Russian economy into freefall. The UKR intend to kick Vlad's troops out of eastern UKR, but also the Crimea. Doing so would no doubt signal the end of Vlad's rule, but would it mark a dangerous moment? The dictator has realized repeating in public the story about his youth in Leningrad when he watched a cornered rat fight back. For years, the Kremlin has assiduously curated Putin's image as a ruthless former KGB officer who is not afraid to take bold action to defend the motherland, especially when facing off against the combined forces of the West. Western audiences have largely fallen for this narrative. The reality is much more nuanced. Vlad is more rational and calculating than many of his opponents give him credit for. I actually agree with that part. He has a nose for weakness, including for his own fragility, but is not infallible. He is fond of the good life, as Gary Kasparov pointed out. Vlad wants to rule like Stalin, but live like Abramovich. Kind of a funny point there. If you haven't seen his mansions, it's over the top. I mean, it's just so over the top. He has gold, everything. If you think T-Man, our former president, has a lot of gold, you have not seen some of the images of his mansions. He's got gold toilet seats. No joke. In our study for the Heritage Foundation, we argue that there is another area where Western audiences have oversimplified the reality of Putin's abilities, specifically the nuclear question. We argue that the threat of Russian use of nuclear weapons is primarily a tactic to scare selected Western audiences, and thus weaken the link between UKR and its Western allies. Those who believe that Russian themselves view them as conventional weapons of conflict are incorrect. Even so, we cannot be sure that Russia will not use nuclear weapons as a last resort in UKR. The Kremlin has laid the linguistic framework for their use. There are 4 circumstances in Russia's latest nuclear doctrine which can justify nuclear weapons deployment. And this is the important part. How they set it up in the way they wrote it so they can defend themselves, as far as like in their own kind of court of law reasoning, the rules that they put up. Dex, do you want to talk about how they framed it? And we actually covered some of these, how they changed the doctrine to where they could defend based on, well, this happened to us, so we told you we were going to do this, right?
Correct. So there's 4 key areas. First, an imminent use of nukes against Russia. So that's an obvious one. If somebody puts a nuke on them, they're going to use it. Actual nuke, so basically actual, imminent meaning somebody's about to, or an actual use. That's the third. The threat to inhibit their control of their own nuclear weapons. So if somebody comes in and tries to prevent them from using their own nukes, that's another reason they can do it. And then the last one, and this is the interesting one, and we'll tie this to what we talked about last night, the threat to the existence of Russia. So that last one is the one that they're sort of reinterpreting. And if you remember, we clearly talked about, and we've done this twice now, or we've reported it twice now with Vlad, but last night is a good example. He, in one of his speeches, said that this is clearly about the existence of Russia, and that if they do not succeed, or if the West moves forward through UKR, etc., that they will cease to exist. So he is basically saying that number 4 reason is in play right now. So that's where a lot of people are sort of saying, yeah, we've got to look back at this rhetoric around the nukes, because while most of us, and myself included, I've said it a dozen times, he says he'll do it, but he never does it. He says, here's a red line, don't cross it. And we cross it and nothing happens. But this is a specific scenario where he is actually building a case against the doctrine that they put together, and specifically saying, hey, this is a fight for their own existence. And that goes, and it's a stretch by some people's interpretations, but it's not in their mind, and it's not in the rhetoric that they are pumping out to their citizenry and to the world.
I was trying to find the the actual article. I think it was 2 days ago where he did that speech, and he essentially says, let's see here. Yeah, I swear it was in the last couple days. Yeah, right here. So it was 2 days ago on the show. What was this? If you want to watch that show, if you missed it, it just went down right when this happened. That was actually on the 14th. So yeah. But yeah, in the speech, you have to realize when they say these things like the way they do, they're setting that everything's a setup. Everything is like a tee up to something bigger. So it's not the way that they're framing it to their people. They're basically saying we're fighting for our lives here, right? It's it's very eerie. And then when you listen to the speeches that are talked about, how they put it, he has also put it, he said, look at the last time that we went to war. This is absolutely, we have to win this. He put it that way. We have to look to our ancestors. There is no losing. It's not an option. And his people are behind him on that. So maybe he just ganded them into believing everything, or maybe there's a whole lot of stuff that we just all don't know. And something way bigger is happening right now that we just can't even fathom. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. And let's see here. Thank you, Joe, for subscribing. Biltoner, I think I said that right. Thank you for subscribing as well. Joanna's Adventure, thank you. Says, which normal are we supposed to return to? Pre-911, post-World War II, pre-World War II, personal autonomy, states taking care of themselves, and very little government. Yeah, Joanna, I get what you're saying. There is no normal. And even when normal was a thing, we were actually being tracked and traced, and we just didn't know it, right? Snowden came out, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, Big Brother is watching? And all of us are like, yeah, we told you that for years. They've always been like that. I guess it would be, yeah, and then like pre-World War II, look at where we were at then. Look at pre-World War I. I guess I would like to get to a place where, yeah, like that would be great. States taking care of themselves, very little government intervention in the family. That would be great. But yeah, or even pre-911, that would be great. And then the drone ain't gonna do the trick. I'm expecting a bloody Fantastic Freddy soon, as in a few days, says Stephen McMahon. Well, I hope not. But looking at it, I would not be surprised. And then Bling It On Grammy. Thank you for all you do, Adam and Dex, and for keeping us informed, and bless our troops. Well, thank you. Thank you, guys, and I appreciate that. Carol, thank you for popping in just to support. Appreciate that. And then dumping fuel makes you lighter and gives you tight maneuvers in a slighter edge. It also prevents out-of-control explosions. Right away. Yep, absolutely. I did not know. Yeah, I could see how if you were lighter, you could make tighter maneuvers. But why were they even doing it? I guess, maybe they knew something we didn't. I don't know. And then this is pretty nuts. The Russian Wagner Group puts a $15 million bounty on an Italian minister's head. So now you have a private military offering to pay $15 million to somebody who takes out somebody who is an official in Italy. It says an Italian minister and Kremlin critic has been warned of a $15 million bounty on his head by Russia. It says Russia's feared Wagner Group has reportedly placed the bounty on Italy's defense minister, who warned this week that the mercenary outfit is using migrants as a form of hybrid warfare against Italy. Well, who would have thunk? Italian intelligence services discovered the existence of a bounty on Guido Crosetto about 10 days ago, according to the Il Foglio newspaper. Hey, we related? The Fuglio? Okay. Mr. Crosetto earlier this week accused Wagner mercenaries based in Libya of encouraging migrants and refugees to head to Italy as a means of destabilizing the country and punishing it for its staunch support of UKR. The order to take out the minister could be carried out by Wagner Group cells based in Serbia, Estonia, the Italian Daily claimed. In January, Dmitry Medvedev, the former prez of Russia, who's now vice president of the Kremlin Security Council, called Mr. Crosetto a rare fool after the defense minister spoke of the importance of giving UKR the weapons it needs to resist Vlad's aggression. So, could you imagine having that group put a $15 million bounty on you? That would be terrifying. Especially since that group doesn't really mess around. Dex, that's a pretty huge... You would think that any civilized country would be like, oh, wait, our group isn't going to do that and take that thing down. But at this point, I guess
Yeah.
everything flies, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's a lot. And that's a euro. So actually it's like 16 million in US dollars. So to add another million, if that matters much, but I think at that price point it's pretty high. Yeah, you don't typically see that kind of stuff boasted about. And maybe it's not that they're boasting. They're really it's probably more of the Italians talking about it after they heard about it. I don't think the Wagners are out actually publicizing this, but it apparently was found out about that bounty is out there, and that's kind of a big bounty for sure. You hear the stuff coming out of like Ayatollah and others
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
over in the ME. That's like normal, but yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. Like him putting out that video on T-Man or something, right? But out of Russia, I don't know. I don't know if this is. I think this would be the first time, right? Has the Wagner Group done this to other government officials around the world? I don't think we've covered it. And then, speaking of all sorts of other things that we are. Oh yes. So I'm going to pull up the. It was. We didn't have much at the beginning of the show, so we did update it. Let me pull this up. About the Minnesota agencies monitoring radioactive leaks in Monticello. Yeah. Not good. Let's see. Minnesota agencies monitoring radioactive chemical leak in Monticello. It says the Minnesota Department of Health and other state agencies are monitoring a nuclear plant in Monticello after 400,000 gallons of water containing a radioactive chemical leaked into the ground at the site. Xcel Energy first reported the leak to the Minnesota Duty Officer and Nuclear Regulatory Commission in late November 2022, according to the release. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, or the MPCA, says the leak has not left the facility or contaminated drinking water sources. What I think is interesting, even if it hasn't yet, there are so many stories right now about drinking water and all of these different, things possibly being affected. This is why people, do Alexa Pures and do Berkeys and all that. So, again, many people do not drink their tap water anyways, but some you can't really help it to take showers in it, right? It says the leak came from a water pipe that runs between two buildings on the site and involves tritium, a naturally occurring radioactive form of hydrogen that is produced in the atmosphere and is a byproduct of electricity production by nuclear power plants. Xcel Energy is pumping contaminated water through the extraction wells, some of which are being reused on the site. The MPCA, MDH, and Minnesota Department of Natural Resources are reviewing data, well sampling results provided by Xcel Energy, and overseeing remediation efforts, according to the statement. Our top priority is protecting residents and the environment. The MPC is working closely with state agencies to oversee Xcel's energy monitoring data and cleanup activities. So we'll see. We'll update you on it if there's anything to update on. Most likely and then the Arizona hazardous derailment. There's just all sorts of events going on all over the place. If you have a theory on why all of these things are going on all at once, let me know in the comments down below. Dex, let's go over the web only. We have a lot of it.
We certainly do. A lot. So don't go anywhere, folks. There's more to come. Go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the show notes link in the description on YouTube or Rumble. Take you to this webpage right here. This is where all the news is that we just covered. And then you're going to hit a yellow bar and it says overflow. This is the rest of the story. So rounding up in the UKR space, we've got a battalion commander from UKR who was demoted after doing a interview with WAPO, or Washington Post. He was basically saying that things weren't as rosy as the West makes them out to be. So no surprise there, instantly demoted for talking to the press. Zelensky is definitely, putting things out there again, talking about the aggression, and reaching a point at which it could burst. There's a statement saying that the fighter jets are actually worthless over in UKR, because of the way this conflict is playing out. So that kind of goes back in the face of everyone trying to send fighter jets over, or that's the next thing they're expecting. There's a few more updates specifically around UKR, with the Wagner Group and with others. A lot's happening there. Steven Seagal, if you didn't know, we've talked about him before, but he has officially declared himself 1,000,000% Russian. So he is absolutely lashing out against the U.S., and sticking up for the country that he's been living in for quite some time now. He doesn't look as good as he used to back in the movie days. But a little bit of updates with the banks. Apparently, somebody from Wells Fargo, former exec, remember the whole fake account scandal. He's got to pay $17 million. We do have updates on what happened with Credit Suisse, and obviously the First Republic that we talked about earlier. That's some additional updates on that as well. And the different deposits that have been made as far as who's backing who in the financial world. I know that stuff's so confusing. It's even confusing to me. And I know it's confusing to everyone else unless you're just a finance guru. And there's a few of them out there, and that's fine. Hey, Amazon being sued for not telling their customers about using facial recognition. So that's kind of interesting. And then there was something about the TikTok ban that's coming. So they're trying to potentially sell off the company or portion of the company, the U.S. portion of it. Some updates with Musk and being sued again, which is like, it seems like that's all the time, but around Tesla drivers. And of course, a $26,000, if I remember the price correctly, EV is coming out from Volkswagen. So for those of you that have thought EVs were too expensive, somebody's trying to bring that price down. So that'll be really interesting to see if that comes to fruition. Much more going on. Hey, we've talked about all the air trouble. There's an interesting article that talks about that too. Like, why does flying seem so terrible right now, from the turbulence to the delays to the near misses to the almost collisions in air and on the ground, all of that stuff kind of wrapped up in there. China tried to launch their own version of ChatGPT and failed. Another disappointment that's out there. If you're into alternate food sources, they're talking about insect farming, and now they're saying it might be cruel. So maybe that'll be a reason why we won't do insect farming. I don't know. It doesn't sound very delicious to me, nor does what the gym rats are apparently eating. They're eating dog food. If you want to know why, it's on the website. You can go find out. Do have a little bit of the political coverage here as well. Some stuff going on with T-Man, with who's talking smack about him, what's going on with DeSantis. Those two seem to be always in the news right now, just given the state of things, as well as some interesting spins on the New Jersey whale deaths. So that and so much more. I didn't even give it all to you there, but there's a lot tonight. So make sure you go check it out. Just go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show. Or if you're on YouTube or Rumble, open up that description, click on the show notes link. It'll take you right here. So easy to get to. We prepare it for you every night.
Oh, poor Wendy. Was a young humpback whale taken in the prime of her life. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the mods. You guys, thank you for keeping it peaceful down there. Again, make sure to go and help them out and say thank you by going over to marfooglenews.com/friends. You can go subscribe. It makes it very easy. You can either click the red icon to subscribe, or you can go check out their links. All the blue highlights are links to their different link trees and things. So make sure to go do so. And again, thank you everybody who is here. Make sure to go check out Wages World. Wages World has been doing great stuff on all of the solar events that are happening. He covered that Carrington level event that luckily was not aimed at us. So make sure to go check that out. He's closing in on 60,000, so let's get him there. And thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. Love you. Dex, thank you so much.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Everybody, you know what time it is. Thank you. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.
victim. Marfoogle news, only news I choose. Marfoogle news, only news I choose. Marfoogle news, only news I choose. Got the breeze blocks tied to my feet now. I got the breeze blocks holding me right down. I got the breeze blocks tied to my feet now. I got the doom on the ride on the villa. Everybody got that one big killer. Careful when that Jesus is my king. On the Anastasia roaming on faith on my yummy out. Oh, really, that sounds awesome. I own J Architect, everybody rip, build, lady yell, everybody gonna rip, feel with the dog food and a Jim Rose, a redneck rapper and a Mr. Joe. Truth Iris, bring it down to Iris, everybody knows. Hallelujah, baby, don't bop, but it bitty, but don't stop, baby, down. Do I care? I don't. Everyone already knows. Marfoogle news, only news I choose. Marfoogle news, only news I choose. Marfoogle news, only news I choose. I'm on the back, hard. I said I want a nana and a milkshake. No ice cream, I Captain Terra feet lay fake all day. Annie Martinez, everyone Simon said. Among search of Lucian V, a Buster Bay Houston and WIS, a gin on Danish girl. Everybody up in this world. Two close throws, everybody knows. A breaker, prepper, and a Marfo. A rep build, hell no, don't go. Roxy, Alameda, and the